No,
No?
no.
Okay. Well, first, happy Mother's Day yesterday to all you moms out there. Thank you for all that you do. I'll just go ahead and read what I have. Unfortunately, you can't see the screen, but I do have a brief slideshow here. 30-year fixed conventional conforming mortgages right now are trending in the 6.97% range. That's up from the previous week, but down from last year by about a half a point. As far as last week was a huge week with some economic data coming out. Um, and as we know, the Federal Reserve met last week and the Fed elected to keep the cost of funds rate unchanged, which we expected. However, Chairman Powell did note that there was some economic data that was maybe a little disappointing, notably mortgage application submissions being less than expected for the previous month. GDP was down, pending home sales. Some of these items are showing that there may be some recessionary traits on the horizon, but the Fed has taken a we're going to wait and see position with the Fed funds rate. Um, I think that there is a pretty decent probability that if some of the economic data continues to come in disappointing, that the Fed's hand will be forced later this year to reduce interest rates, which would be good for our business. I do want to take a minute, and I'm sorry you guys can't see my slideshow, but and with Carrie talking about this huge open house and the high value homes and everything, SLS has a wonderful, wonderful program called the Sharp Jumbo program. I know I've spoken to a lot of the advisors about that. This program is designed for high value homes with loan amounts up to 3.5 million, 80% loan to value, available on not only primary residences but secondary residences. There's a high debt to income ratio flexibility up to 50%, which is really aggressive, and the client would need to have a minimum of 6 months reserves. So that is a brief summary on the high value Sharp Jumbo program that we have. And for more information, please have your clients or an advisor may call me and I'll be happy to discuss it in more detail.
Trip. Also, I
Lastly,
asked real quick if you can send the slides out. You can send it to me and I'll send it to everybody.
okay, I can certainly do that.
Mhm.
Lastly, Bill is on because we are definitely open to pricing our mortgages, our rates for Sotheby's clients very aggressively to get their business. So no, I've been told we do not want to lose business to a competitor, and I've been given the authority to get very aggressive on pricing. And if you have a client that needs to be pre-qualified or if they're under contract, please give me a shot at that because I'm fairly confident that I will be able to win their business with an aggressive interest rate.
All right, now to me. Trip, what I love about you is your poise. Um, and we are prepared to beat people's deals, right? We're new to market. We've had great success. We just funded over $3 million for the business from Sotheby's in Tampa Bay last month. And we want to get things started with Trip. We will give your clients a better deal than what they have, whether that be interest rate, whether it be an extra 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 at closing. If you refer your clients to us for the first two clients we get, we will beat whatever they have. Guaranteed. I have 10 witnesses here, whatever it is. 20 witnesses. I don't know how many you call, Carrie. Sorry.
You got a lot. You got more than that. Sorry. You got to
Right?
do it now.
Yes.
Trouble.
Yes. So give us the opportunity to show your clients what we can do. And let me show you why, right? The market volatility right now is just wild. So I'm going to share the screen real quick, Carrie.
Yep. Go right ahead.
You got it? Is it up? All right.
You have to, yep, there it is.
Yay. All right. So orange line, okay, is what the lenders are telling their prices to Freddie Mac. Okay. The blue line is what their price really is.
Mm,
Okay. And this is a couple weeks old, but that's not what's important. I want you to see, look at these big gaps between where the orange line and the blue line are, right? These are volatile times, not only in the real estate business, but in the lending business, right? Every lender is just trying to make as much money as they can. And that's what that big spread is,
mm,
right? Hey, rates are rising and lowering. As they rise, we're going to make them go up further. As they drop, we're going to kind of keep them because maybe people won't notice. Okay. Your clients are getting bad pricing. They're getting bad quotes out there. Okay. Be the hero. Send them to us. We will give them a better deal. So that's it. That's the summary. And just because they fell for an ad or called an ad or were referred by somebody does not mean they're getting a great deal. So be the hero, work with us and help give them back better interest rate for payment or a couple thousand in closing cost credit, whatever it takes for us to make it happen. So that's our commitment to all of you in the market. I don't, we end up doing the deal for little to no money, and that's okay. But we're definitely committed to do it for the first few referrals that we get. So let us help you and your clients make something great happen. So thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, Bill. All right, guys. So back to, well, I guess the program at hand. As we were talking about, so we have, again, the virtual open house. I will get that out to you today. I'm going to have the event created today. So you'll have that. I already have the Zoom link. But again, if you have a home that is not in the over $1 million, it's not that you can't participate, but I do have to focus on the ones that could not participate in a regular open house first. And again, I don't want to go over an hour. So if I have so many homes, wouldn't that be a great problem? If I don't, absolutely give them all. So if you're interested in doing it and you have a home that could be in a regular open house, let me know anyway, because I may still be able to get you in, because I'd love to show more houses than less. And even if we just went over to you and you only have, a few moments, like 3 minutes or something to showcase your home. Great, right? So, but if you have a large home and you're participating in this, I highly recommend you may want to have a couple people helping to showcase the home so that you're not running through the home, that you have somebody maybe out by the pool, because you're showcasing what? This is, lifestyle, guys. So I would highly recommend having people at each lifestyle highlight. So if you want to showcase the pool, if you want to showcase the sauna room, if you want to show whatever you're showcasing, gosh knows if you're at, some of these homes are so beautiful, you can't run around that house if it's 12,000 square feet, right? You're not going to have time to do that. Nobody wants to see a hoof in it. So you want to that's the beauty of Zoom. We could go to each person on your team or whoever's there with you to help. Oh, and over to you, Juliana, and over to you. And we can do that. But it has to be choreographed. So I'm going to need to know the order that you want to have it in, or you could say over to you and just let me know what you're doing in your little program. But this is what we're going to have planned for Saturday. Okay. Sound good to everybody? Great. Even if it doesn't, too bad. So just kidding. All right. Now we're going to get on to NLP and one of my favorite topics. I'm a neurolinguistic certified practitioner. It's been a while, so probably a bit rusty, which means that I can't mind meld you all as well as I could have. Just kidding. I'd probably be pretty okay with it. But let me go ahead and, oh, wait 1 second. I gotta. I'm gonna, oops. Let's go ahead and grab. All right. First, we're gonna grab a share. All right. Share. Can everybody see the PowerPoint? Does everybody see neural thoughts? It's 3 circles that are online. What do you guys see online? Yes? Oh my God, it's a miracle. Oh, it worked. Oh God, this is like so exciting. And on Monday too. Great sign for this weekend. Okay. No technical difficulties. All right. So what is neuro-linguistic programming? Let's break it down to the very basics. Neuro is your thoughts. Linguistic has to do with words, concepts, and habits, because your words create what you think, creates your habits, and that creates your behavior, which is your programming. Okay, so your actions, your programming, that is something that you're creating yourself. We're going to look through this a little bit. Now, first, I want you to imagine, because I meant to stop and pick some up and I forgot them. If you had a bowl of beautiful, brightly colored jelly beans in front of you, which color would you pick? Take a look at that beautiful bowl, which, by the way, don't pick by flavor, pick by color. Okay? Now, please tell me, as you're thinking, which ones. Hold on, I'm going to print this really quickly for me because I should have printed it already. Everybody know which ones you're going to print? Yeah? Okay. Yeah. You keep going. And that. How much is that? Or not?
You can choose that way.
You like pink?
Yeah. Pina colada.
Pina colada.
She said no. No, I said.
Brady's is broken, broke the machine.
I'm concerned if you actually know what flavors going on.
No, okay. Brady broke the machine, so I can't print it. Anyway, okay. How many of you, anybody in the group, would pick white or black?
No.
Anybody online? A white or a black?
I would.
Oh, Mary, very interesting. I want you all to know, she's not on this meeting right now, but you know who else would? Is Cindy Pennington. These individuals are highly structured, organized. Their surroundings must be neat. If they're given an assignment, they want to know when, by how long, what are the exact requirements. They have to know the rules. They memorize things very well. They can't stand sloppy or unorganized people. Are you understanding why Cindy's always after you about that damn CCC, right? And they deliberate everything before making decisions. She's going to call you. She's going to send a billion emails. She's going to put all the everything in cap, right? Does that not sound like Cindy? She's your white or black jelly bean for sure. All right, now, who would pick yellow? Do I have any yellows in my group? No? Anybody online yellow? What do you guys what color you guys think I am? Anybody know?
I picked yellow.
Well, I got a yellow, Lisa. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, I picked
Okay.
yellow too. Lauren picked yellow.
Oh, Lauren picked yellow. Okay, so yellows are not usually outspoken. You guys are always in a state of transition, whether you're 8 or 80. You're usually smart and innovative and often artistic. Lisa's like, that's so me. You're sometimes confused in making decisions and unsure where you're supposed to be, but you're hard workers. You're exciting to be with, and you'll try anything as long as it's safe. Spiritual aspects usually are important to them. Definitely sounds like Lisa Campbell. I don't think I know you enough well, Lauren, to know if this is truly you. And you look at things with a perspective and respect others. You respect others' opinions. What do you guys think? Does that sound like you?
A little bit. Maybe
That-
I'm a little orange and yellow mixed together.
What in yellow?
Maybe some orange and yellow. The yellow sort of, but sort of doesn't.
What about you, Lisa? That sounds a lot like you.
Unfortunately.
Okay, any oranges? Do I have any oranges in my group? Jesus, what color are you, Maria?
Blue.
Blue? Oh, blue. Interesting. What are you?
Purple.
Purple.
That dark blue, purple.
Pink.
That purple.
Okay, we
I'm
don't have,
blue.
we don't have blue. We have orange.
Hey, I'm red. Go back to red.
Let me
I'm
go
red.
over. That's violet. That's not blue. That's a violet. It's violet.
Oh,
Okay, that's what I
Angela's
like.
red.
Now I'm scared. Now we have to see who's colorblind. That's violet or black.
Yeah. It's the same color, Maria.
Okay, we're scared. Now we have to talk about color blindness. Okay,
Blue, purple.
okay. Okay, okay. Let's go to the colors we have here. We have pink, yellow, green, violet, white, yellow, orange, and black. Okay. Okay, it really is. We're gonna go with violet on that. Okay. We're going back to orange. Everyone sees and recognizes orange on the board, right? We go with orange. Okay. Oranges are cheerful and good-natured. This one sounds more like you, Lauren. Have the ability to get along with almost anyone. They're usually friendly and have a ready, quick smile, care. They're usually quick wit, fluent, often eloquent and profound in speech. They do not like to be left alone. They enjoy life and inspire others to reach their highest potential. That's an orange. Everyone needs an orange in their life. Red and pink. Any red and pinks out there in the group?
I'm red. Angela.
You're courageous.
Kate.
Your energy seems boundless. You smile much of the time. If they see someone not smiling, you ask what the problem is. You genuinely care about people and become involved in others' problems. You're highly influenced by others and you share their sadness or grief. You make decisions with feelings and act on impulse of the heart. You spend a great deal of time on the phone, usually listening to others. You're sensitive, enthusiastic friends and lovers. Is that you, Angela, or what?
I'd say it's pretty close.
Okay, violet, or some of you who are colorblind, blue. Flirty and passionate, highly creative, highly excitable, have new ideas and are visionary, short attention spans, can't stay put for long, disorganized, often choosing to close doors rather than to deal with organization. Interesting to know that about you, Maria. Procrastinators who thrive on chaos, enjoy the challenges of different problems, have a problem dealing with highly structured time, questioning when given an assignment, asking why it has to be done a certain way, why to do it, can I do it a different way? That totally is you. And you set high standards for yourself and you choose, and those that you choose to work for. If I could have just put your name on that one.
That's a little suspiciously like myself as well.
Well, some of us can, we can have other colors we like, but you usually are predominantly one. Green. Can I have any greens in the room? Any greens? Okay.
I'm not standing up. I'm a green.
You should. Oh, Julia, please stand up because you need to stand because greens always have to stand because you love recognition. These are people who are seen as leaders. They're usually high visible positions. You are respecters of authority and tradition. You're decisive, direct, and focused. You love black and white jelly beans because you want them to organize your life and projects for you. Now, which color did you guys think I was? Anybody have an idea? Yeah, I'm pink. I am a pink. I got some other colors in there like we all do, but I truly am a pink. That's me. All right. So interestingly enough, hold on, let me come here. Let me close some of these things for myself because I'm going to give myself a little bit of a heart attack. Hold on. All right, we're going to go back over here. Neurolinguistic programming. It's funny because it's how you display these thoughts that you've come up with. Now, again, what we said about neurolinguistic programming is your brain is a computer, okay? And you have been programmed, if you will, by all of the stimuli that's around you your whole life. For example, if you hear that bell, a school bell, do you not sit up and like look around? It's a trigger. It's something that you've been programmed to know. Oh my God, I'm late. Oh no, like a fire, a fire engine sound or like, the bell of an emergency thing. That's a trigger. You know that means emergency, right? There are certain things that you hear, like if someone says Carolyn to me, I'm like, oh God, what did I do wrong? That's why I hate when I see it all over the doors. I'm like, oh, because that's how I learned my name. I was Carrie forever, right? I was like, who's this Carolyn person? They're terrible. I don't want to know Carolyn. So there are things in our life that we have been programmed by. It's kind of like when you have certain smells that remind you of your grandma. It's like we builders put cookies in the oven because we want to create that feeling of warmth and home. We do that not just to make the house smell good, because we know that a cookie is a trigger. Something like an apple pie could be a trigger, some kind of smell that reminds you of home. We're trying to create a trigger that has been created without your knowledge by now. It's not everybody's trigger. Maybe some people grew up and they hate pie, right? But we know that in general, if you look at the populace as a whole, there's a good chance that many people in that group have had the similar type of programming, right? Now, you can choose to program your own mind, or you could just continue to be programmed by all the stimulus around you. So this is something that I had studied when I first started having kids. They were little, and I thought this was fascinating. So I decided very young that I was going to train my children to not be programmed by other people. So very early on, I trained them to think and say, because part of the triggering, again, is remember, we're auditory, you hear, visual, you see, or kinesthetic, you take in by how you feel about it, right? We talked about this last week. but you always want to hit on all three types because, again, sometimes we have all three modalities and a little bit of it, but even though you might be more of one type. But so the way to really program yourself is to pick a mantra and to say it over and over again. You're programming your own inner consciousness, okay? So I programmed my children. Yes, I'm that mom. I'm an evil one to say, I don't care what people think. That was the one I used because as they were little, it was easy. I don't care what people think. I don't care. So funny enough, my kids could care less. I never had to worry about any kind of peer pressure. I never had to worry. My kids really could care less. It's really amazing. So they're the most, I mean, those of you who have met them, would you not agree? They're self-confident. They are leaders because to be a leader, you cannot worry about what people are thinking. You have to do what is right, however it affects people, because you know that in the long run, it will be the right thing to do, right? But if you're too worried about how people are going to take it or think about you, you're not going to be a strong leader, right? So that's why I thought of all things I could help arm them with, that was probably the simplest, easiest one I could give them. So moving on. This is the frames of NLP, and this is as simplistic as I can make it because NLP is a very deep subject matter, but it is so interesting. And for those of you who are interested, I highly recommend more coursework. But here's the basic, okay? First, you have cause and effect. It's the baseline from which all other frames come from, right? Cause and effect is very simple. You have the result versus excuses. And those of you who are ninjas in the room, you'll know, right? Mindset versus victim versus player. It's the same thing. So you either have to deal with what is instead of making excuses is why it is. So like for my kids, when they'd say, oh, I'm not doing well because the teacher, no. That's an excuse. What is the situation? You got to see, and I don't care. We got to fix by changing actions, right? So their whole life, my poor children have been raised with NLP. Okay. And I'm going to use it in that frame versus in a real estate frame. And we will turn this into real estate because sometimes I think when you take this and you put it into a real life situation, it kind of breaks it out a little easier to understand. Would you guys agree with that? Yeah. Okay. Then perception is projection. That, we always say perception is reality. No, perception is projection. If you see something in someone else, it's because it's in yourself. That's what people don't realize. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So if you're seeing somebody who's is something good or bad, it's in you. And the quicker you recognize it, the quicker you can either go with it because you like it, make it better, or change it, right? The mind-body connection is fascinating, and that is the neuroscience. So what they discovered is that every being in yourself is eavesdropping on you all the time. So when you have negative talk, like my husband's the worst at this. Yeah, you guys ever see the Christmas story? I'm gonna shoot your eye out, where the husband's like, that's my husband when he's working, and I'm always like, don't do that. You can't change everybody, right? But that's what a lot of people do, right? When they get angry, what do you say to yourself? Mostly when you're frustrated, when you're stressed out, when things aren't going right in a sale, whether you're on the list side or the buy side, you have to listen to your self-talk. Self-talk is the most important thing because it happens all the time. And you don't realize it. Because like myself, I speak it out loud, but anybody who knows me, they're like, Gary's talking out loud again. A lot of you guys keep it inside, which makes it worse because nobody can help you. But the point is, you got to pay attention to that because that's programming yourself over and over and over again, which is why it's very important to listen to it and then create a mantra to change it. Okay. Well, I call it a mantra. We called it a mantra in my school. You can call it different things. Different NLP schools to call it different things. Responsibility for results. This is the most important thing.
Sure, I'm not on.
Yeah.
So you got to understand how did you get to that point? You got there. The reason you're there is because you your actions. You have to take 100% responsibility for where you're at that moment. It's not the market. It's not, the seller. It's 100% you. So get past that. Stop creating all of this nonsense. Stop putting all this stuff about excuses. Just look at it. And then you've got to take out the guilt because it's all simply behavior. None of it has anything to do with emotion. And that's what's so awesome about NLP because it's science, right? When someone's emotional, how do you react with it? How do you get emotion to get away? You have to be logical. And if someone's too logical, you have to be emotional. That's the only way to counterbalance that, right? Well, when you're emotionally upset because you're not doing well or something's going wrong, the only way to counterbalance that is to be logical. And the problem is so many of us get so upset, we allow our senses and the emotions and all the things around us and the stimuli and all the stress. Let's face it, what is it really? Stress, right? I'm going to tell you one other thing. It's very funny. This is unrelated, but not. I'm an opera singer, as you all know, and I breathe diaphragmatically. Does anyone know what that is? It's called belly breathing. It's called many other things. When you're a baby, every baby is born breathing that way. When you breathe in, your belly goes out. When you breathe out, your belly goes in. Kara, can you do me a favor? Yeah. I need you to come here and be my little example. I need you to breathe.
Okay.
Don't think about it.
Sometimes I forget.
Yeah, just take a big, deep breath. What happened to her chest?
Just expanded.
And it went up. Where did her shoulders go? Take one more. You can't help it.
Yeah.
If I breathe in, did mine move?
No.
No. Because my belly did. Everything opens because I can't even fake that. I don't know how to fake that. I'd have to just go like this, which is retarded.
It's wild.
Because my body does not know how to do that anymore. Thank you. Wonderful.
Can you breathe through the mouth? I mean, can any of you?
So here's the thing, which is super interesting. As we get older, we start to breathe more shallow, more shallow, more shallow. Do you know why? Stress. Stress. And then as you get older and you get heart problems and diabetes and all this other crap, you know what happens? They tell you to breathe diaphragmatically, which is, which we opera singers do. So one other little thing, if you want to practice breathing diaphragmatically, there's one very simple way. Does anybody know? You take a straw. Everybody pretend you have a straw. And breathe in. Did your tummy go out? Try it, hold your stomach. If you lay down, it's even easier. It somehow triggers, when I teach lessons, I always do that, but something to practice with. But the point is here, our body is triggered through all of these things. That is a trigger that stress has created. It has actually scientifically changed how you breathe. How freaking scary is that, guys? Stress through the years has changed your breathing pattern, which has made it really bad for you. I'm sorry. Your metabolic age is worse than mine. I will live longer than you. No, just kidding. Yeah. So for example, we were down in Machu Picchu climbing all these things. It's super high altitude. I'm running up the hills. Everyone else like, is it because I work out? Not really. I do work out, but that has nothing to do with it. It's because I have so much more air because I breathe diaphragmatically. When you get this much air in because you're breathing acoustically, you're just taking this much of my whole body is getting air in. That's how I can sing and I can talk forever. And you guys are like, do you ever take a breath? I really don't have to because, I use so little air when if I really took a breath, you'd be really in trouble. I could go on forever. That's the difference. So they're so incredible. I mean, all of this is tied truly to NLP. You could teach yourself how to change physically how you react to stress. Imagine how much healthier you could be. So NLP isn't just for sales. It's not just for how you handle, it's about how you can actually be healthier as a person. This could be used in so many different parts of your life. And that's really where I got so excited and involved in it personally. Okay, moving on. So again, The neuro is how we're thinking, right? The frontal cortex of your brain, how you're taking the information in. The linguistics is the word part of it, right? And the programming is how we're actually taking all of those sensors, putting them together and changing not just how we're thinking about it, but how our entire body is reacting to it, how we're breathing. I mean, so many, how our body is taking, the cells are taking the blood. I mean, everything, it affects everything. So here are some of the presuppositions. There's more, but these are important. So one thing you always have to keep in mind is that each person's map or model, as we like to say, is unique. So how Carrie has been brought up through her life is totally different than me, totally different than Brady. Nobody has the same one, because even two people, my identical twins, imagine, brought up with the same upbringing with me, completely different maps, because you don't know how the environment around them has been taken in by their brain, what indicators they've chosen to focus on. Because as I said last time, there's thousands upon thousands at every moment, and you can only pick a couple to focus on. So what Jake could have focused on could be totally different than what Cole focused on. You follow me? So this is why everyone's map is unique. And people are not their behavior. The sooner you can separate that, the easier, by the way, when you hate your sellers. Sometimes I forget this fact because sometimes I just hate them. But the ones that I have to deal with, they're always not very nice by the time they get to me. But if you can separate it, that's what I try to do before I talk to them. I try to realize it's a behavior I'm dealing with, not a person. It's not the person I'm dealing with, it's their behavior, right? That's what it is. And all behavior does have a positive intention. They have a positive intention. Their intention is positive to them. May not be positive to me, right? But there is a positive intention of their behavior, right? And everybody is doing the best they can with the information and the resources that they have at that moment, right? So if you understand that, you got to it helps you kind of put everything in perspective. Does that make sense? So there is no failure. Like if you can't sell a listing, not that anyone's ever had that happen. Maybe something expires. It's not a failure. That's only feedback. It tells you, look at all of the circumstances, look at all of the things that happened, take that in as feedback so that you can address something for the future. It's only feedback. It's not a failure. Take emotion out. Right? That's the most important thing. And when you decide to take charge of your mind, take the responsibility for the results that you're creating out in the world. Because that's the thing. When you're in a bad mood and you're putting negative, 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 you're putting that out in the world, right? But if you're understanding how your behavior is affecting others, it becomes so much more powerful, right? So for another example, my son was so cute. He went up, this was like when he was maybe a freshman. He was online at Panera or something. And this woman was just, was busy. And he just says, ma'am, I just want to tell you, you are doing an amazing job. She was like floored. He's a high school kid, right? She's like, no one has ever said that to me. I was having such a bad day. Thank you so much. She gave him a gift card. She was so cute. He's like, no, you don't have to. I just wanted to tell you. Thank you for all you do. But he noticed that she was having a bad day and he wanted to change her behavior. You see what I'm saying? Now, if you have your articulating factors open and you see that your behavior can change someone, imagine if you're in a listing presentation. Imagine if you're with a buyer. Imagine how powerful this can be in all parts of your life. How many times do we just focus like this and we don't pay attention to anything? But our words, our actions, everything can be so powerful if we actually paid attention to all of these stimulus that are around us, right? And the resistance is just a sign of lack of rapport. So if someone is being resistant, for example, in a listing presentation, you didn't build rapport. That is the most important thing. And that's why I say you sit down at that table first. You build rapport first. Don't go show the home. Sit down, build rapport, make sure you match a mirror, because if you have not done that, to me, you have not earned the right to begin. That's how I look at it. So this is so critical to understand. If they're not really like clicking with you, you didn't build the rapport. You didn't do your job. Now, not everybody's going to click with you, but that's really not true. If you know NLP, everybody will click with you. It may not be the you that's your natural modality, but you know how to use NLP to allow everybody to click with you. And that's the sneaky part of NLP because it's being able to read people, right? That's the important thing. So again, we talked about there's about 30% of people that are auditory in the population. 65% of us are visual. And I got one of the 5% that are kinesthetic. I mean, I don't know how that happened. But it did. But that's pretty much your breakup, which is why you never know. And you have to be prepared when you enter into any situation, especially husband and wife, and you go in and you better have materials for all three kinds. You better have, obviously you're going to talk, so your auditory is good. But you know what? If you're showing a video, make sure there's music in it. How many times do we take the music out? Because we want to make sure they hear us. No, put a little music in there. You know, our music is so soothing. Have them in the background. The auditory person will enjoy that because they'll be able to take the information in better than if you didn't have it. Visual, obviously, make sure there's some beautiful pictures, because if you just have words, that's not very visual. That's why the posts with words don't do very well on social media, right? You guys know that. If you just post words, it does not do very well. But if you post a beautiful picture, it's going to do so much better. And it's not surprising if you look at Instagram, when you look and see what things do better than others, the words just don't do very well because 65% of our population is visual. And if you think about it, Instagram was really built for the visual population, even though it's more, morphosizing into Facebook. All right. So here's some of those characteristics again that we sort of talked about. Here's your visual, organized. Appearance is oriented. They are appearance oriented. They're observant. Good spell.
Terry,
Yeah.
can you make it full screen? Because for many of us, we're seeing the presenter view and it's small.
Oh, how do I change that? Swap displays.
When you go
now?
back, yeah. Well, that's part of it. But if you just, when you went back into share, if you made sure it was the regular view instead of the presenter view.
Well, aren't you in the regular view now?
Now.
Yeah. Okay. But now you guys are in presenter view. The problem is when you are in regular view, the people here are in presenter view. It's kind of bizarre. I don't know why that happens. It's sort of weird. Let's see. I don't know how to get it where it's presenter view for everybody.
There's too much for this.
Uh-huh.
Like, how do we know who we're dealing with generally?
Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that. Oh. Yeah. So again, they're good spellers. They memorize pictorially, right? Like I told you, when I say, okay, it's on the contracts in the middle of the page, like I see exactly what I can remember. If I'm driving the car, I'm like, read it to me. I know it's in the middle of the page. It's on line 20, section 12. Like I'm looking at the contract visually because that's how I memorize things. Fairly quiet. Well, that's obviously not true for me, but see, we're all parts of everything, right? Deliberate, prefers reading to being read to. So true. Difficulty remembering verbal instructions. Yes, please don't tell me, right? So true. Oh, I hate that. If you tell me something, just, yeah, no, what did, excuse me, what? Yeah, no. Less distracted by noise. Okay. Auditory, they love music. They find spoken language easy. They speak. See, this is interesting because I do have auditory in me because I am good with languages. We are combinations. And if you take some really serious tests, you can see the combinations that you are. They speak rhythmically. They talk to yourself. Everybody talks to themselves. They move lips and speak words when reading, which I do that too. Can repeat back, is easily distracted, totally me. Finds math and writing more difficult than talking, no. Learns by listening, can mimic tone, pitch, and timbre, yep. Memorizes by step, sequence, and procedures. Okay, kinesthetic, physically oriented, moves a lot, touches people and stands close, responds to physical rewards, has large physical reactions, early large muscle development, points when reading, gestures a lot, responds physically, memorizes when walking, seeing landmarks, and learns by doing. Okay, here's some more characteristics. This is part of it. So a visual, actually, hold on. We're going to do one. Who do we not know? Juliana, come on down. Come on down. You're the next contestant. We're not sure what you are. Have a seat. Can everybody see Miss Juliana? Okay. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. Just look straight ahead. I'm going to go over here. And I just want you to answer questions that are going to be non-answers, whatever questions, no big deal. But I just want you to answer the questions as they come to you. When you were in kindergarten, I don't know if you have kindergarten.
Yes.
Okay. What did you wear for the first day?
The uniform.
That was easy.
Yes.
In kindergarten, what was your favorite color?
Pink.
Okay. What did you want to be when you were just the first memory of wanting to be?
A lawyer.
If she had all those things. Who was the first boy you liked?
My father.
No, you liked.
Ah.
You wanted to kiss.
Oh.
Please don't tell me your mom.
No. I don't remember till I was like 14 when I
Yeah, think about it. Like if you passed a note about
maybe someone from my class.
Okay,
There's a lot.
that's what I wanted. So we finally had to make a question that she had to think about. And did you see what she did? Thank you very much. She looked up. She had to look for the answer. If you ask somebody a question that they know, it's no help. But if you have to look for the question, look for the answer, you're trying to remember it as if it's a movie, you're visual. If you're auditory, you kind of go back in your head, your eyes kind of go to the side. You almost look like you're possessed. I can't do it. You're auditory. Kinesthetic people, no, they don't close their eyes. They just kind of go into this weird stare thing. I can't do it, but yeah, it's kind of bizarre looking. They look like they're looking at you, but they're not. They're like looking through you. Yeah, kinesthetic people tend to look down. They'll touch their legs or their arm. They have to see how they feel. Like they remember their memories about how they felt about it. So if you ask them a question that they actually have to have a memory recall on, not like their uniform and she knew everything. It was terrible, but it has to be a question that they don't know off the top of their head. They actually have to recall it. That's a great indicator. There's also other ways you can recall, get indicators, and those are going to be things like words they use. Let's see, moving along here. We're good on time. Let me see here. Hold on. Okay. Let me go back over here. So, see, looking slightly up or ahead, there's your visual. People who are visual also, shallow from the chest or upper chest, only if you are not an opera singer. I would be you could not know. Tense shoulders causing the neck to hunch in a visual, and they often speak fast with higher pitch and their head may be up. That's not always the case because what if it's a man, right? So these are some indicators. Looking down and left, kinesthetic looks down and right. But again, sometimes those kinesthetic people don't look down. They just kind of look in their head. So if you've ever seen a kinesthetic person, auditory person, a truly auditory person, it's bizarre. It's like, are you looking at me? Like you can't tell because they're so in their head listening. I had a music teacher like that. He was always doing that to me, always freaked me out. So he was, 100% auditory, that guy. He was an amazing musician, by the way. Played with all the best jazz artists. Incredible. But yeah, it was freaky. Evenly mid-chest, lower rib cage. Again, some of that is going to be dependent upon other things, right? Like, are they truly a musician? Because also musicians tend to breathe diaphragmatically. So, sometimes breathing is hard. Like fully using a diaphragm, totally not true. My husband does not diaphragmatically breathe. So that is not true. Tension evenly distributed over shoulders and back, and relaxed posture. I don't know if my husband has a relaxed posture. Good, clear enunciation with their voice, rhythmic, even paced. I would say an auditory person does have more of an even pace. They don't speak as quick. And definitely a kinesthetic speaks slowly. So here's the thing. A kinesthetic speaks very slow. They like to listen to themselves. It is painful. They will tell those stories that kind of go on forever, and you're like, is there a point in this? You know those? I'm like, I love you, honey. Can you bring it home? Like Jules likes to say, land the plane. Are we coming in? Like, it's my husband. I try to have the patience, but I'm like, time is money. Did you bullet point it? Like, can you just text it? Right. So, yeah. So that's that. Okay. And then moving on. Okay. Okay. I see that they can see it. So here's some more again about visuals. These are some of the words they use. They like to say stuff, things utilizing visual words. Look, see, I can pinpoint that. We can get clarity. So a lot of times you can pick up what somebody is by the words that they use. I like to see you perceive this. Let's, illuminate, illustrate. So these are some. Now, the better thing about these is if you find that you have a visual, this is great words to use to follow up, because then they know you understood them. So I will be happy to send these lists to you. These are some things that are great. Obviously, hear, listen, sound, announce, but resonate. That's a great word, right? Interview, undertones, hearing. There's some orchestrate. We can orchestrate a beautiful event. That is a great word for an auditory person, right? So, it's always important to try to answer back with the words that are their love language, right?
Or if you're doing a piece that you don't know, if you haven't met the person, would you try to sprinkle in maybe all three?
Yeah, that's always a good thing. If you haven't met them, put all three in there purposefully, because you don't know what they are. Yep, I can see how you feel. I'm looking forward to meeting you, so we can orchestrate a great event. Yeah, put all three in there if you don't know. Or if you're doing an email to two people who are two different things, you might have to put both types of words in there. Yeah. So, but these are some great words. So I have these words for you and I can send these to you so you have them, but these are good words that you can keep in there. And here's some phrases again that they have. So I have different phrases. I'm just running out of time, so I'm not going to go through them all. But here are the visual cues. Now, here's another thing. If you look to the right, it's visual remembered. So you saw she looked to the right. She's trying to remember. If she looked to the left, now this can get construed incorrectly. And I want to talk about this because some people think this is like a dead set thing. To the left is constructed, which a lot of people equal lying. But it doesn't always mean lying. Some people, maybe they're trying to, this is totally memory, but sometimes they're trying to create something, or they're trying to add some kind of something to it, right? Doesn't mean they're lying. Don't always, but sometimes they're just lying. So just like maybe they wanted to add something like an end to a story, a creative juices. Yes, right. The creative side would be the left. The recall side is the right. But if you ask them just something like, how do you think this would work? And they look to the left and they go, oh, well, I really, they're creatively lying to you that they think you're good. Right, exactly. So, I mean, it's not always a dead set thing because you don't really know why they did that. And remember, it's a behavior. And so this is where people take a little NLP and they turn it, like timeshare sometimes does this. They take a little of the NLP, they say they turn to the left, they're lying, and they make it emotional. NLP is not emotional. There's no emotion in NLP. So this is when you know somebody doesn't understand NLP because they took the presuppositions of NLP and they just beat it all up and turned it into some jumble of things. And they took a couple pieces and they turned it into whatever they wanted it to be. That's not NLP. It's about seeing what's happened, looking at it behaviorally, and discerning what the next step action would be. It has nothing to do with an emotion, putting guilt, couldn't claim, right? Because that's what they would do, right? So that's the point. That's what I want to make sure that we're understanding there. All right. And for the sake of time, we're going to move a little quicker. But again, in a visual, now this is important. Communication, look at this. 55% of communication is physiology. Only 38% is voice tonality, and 7% only is words. So it doesn't really, and that's why they say it doesn't matter what you say, it matters what they say. But because that's their physiology, right? If they've understood what you've said, it's so much more important that you're hearing it from them. But it's all, the trusting response comes from the physiology. It has nothing to do with the words. So those people who like to all say all this stuff and talk, you're talking about nothing. You might as well just keep yapping. What is that horrible song they had, that bird thing that they added to the Disney thing that she just yaps and yaps and yaps? This is exactly what this is saying. Don't be the yapper, right? You have to create the physiology. So when you're building rapport, you want to build it through physiology, not through words. And that's where matching and mirroring comes in. So you have to have that feeling that you just click with somebody. You ever have that feeling like, oh my God, I just love that person? Did you have that feeling when you first met with me? I don't know how that happened. Could it just been natural? It is natural. I will say, once you become really good at this, you cannot help it. You do it all the time. And you don't do it to be contrite. You don't do it because you're trying to be sneaky. It's just part of who you are. It's how you understand the world. And because, again, you understand it's a behavior, you're just trying to be the person who's trying to understand the behavior of somebody else, right? So it's nothing that's make believe, or you understand what I'm saying? There's nothing. So you don't ever want to turn this to be a negative thing. It's all positive. So here's something that we can look at. Easy way is posture, like we've talked about. So if you notice that they turn their head, if they position their body, breathing, very simple. If they breathe fast, if they're breathing lower. Now, when they're saying stomach, mid, you guys cannot breathe diaphragmatically. And I just think it's silly that they're talking like that, because nobody can just breathe diaphragm. I can't breathe my acoustically. I just can't do it. So I think it's more like, are they breathing calmly, or are they breathing a little quicker? Right? I think it's more about pacing. So when they talk about the location of the breath, I disagree with that. I don't think anyone in this room, even me, who is very, I teach breathing, for God's sake, I can't tell you how to put it in your chest. I can't do it. Right? So you guys, good luck with that. But what you can do is match the breathing by pacing, right? If they're breathing quietly. Now, if they are heavy breathers, please don't be a heavy breather, because that's weird. But some people just breathe kind of soft and quiet. Some people are a little bit more, a little bit more intense, a little more active, a little more excited. That's okay. You can match that. Facial expressions, if they're big blinkers, please don't become a big blinker. That's really weird. But there are certain things that are very easy to do. And so if you're matching and mirroring, I'm going to match and mirror Juliana. I'm just going to sit here. She blinks, I'm not going to blink. Like, I'm not going to follow everything she does, but I'm just going to, if she's talking a little lower, I'm going to match her tonality. Tonality is a very simple one. Within your vocal range, please do not try to match her vocal range. Okay. If she speaks in a higher tessitura than you speak, do not go there. Okay. That would be extremely weird. But within your natural range, if she speaks a little higher, then you can speak a little higher in your range. And if she speaks a little lower, then you can speak a little lower in your range, right? In a comfortable way that doesn't seem weird and freaky. If she's matching her vocal pace is a great one. If she's speaking like this and she speaks a little faster, then you speak a little faster. If she speaks a little slower, then you could speak a little slower. I love how they, when you're looking at a sentence structure, it's very clear sentence structure. People might take a breath every 3 words. I'm not saying sit there and count their words, but you'll notice as people talk, they have very clear sentence structure. Start paying attention to that. It's a very simple one to follow if you're matching and mirroring. But again, don't please start counting words because that's really weird. But you'll notice certain people do long extended sentences. Other people will break in their sentences every few words. That's an easy one to follow. Well, I agree. Some people, they really don't think, because they want to put a little inflection in there. That's an easy thing to do without being weird. It's the ones that are weird that you want to avoid.
Some people do a long pause at the end of when they say something, they just pause. And I'm like, is that it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. That's a great one. The other really important one, everybody has certain phrases they use over and over again. Everybody does it. Be very cognizant of what their phrase is. I like to use the example of my brother who uses at the end of the day. That's his phrase. Jesus Christ, he still uses it. He cracks me up with that. But if I want to end my conversation with my brother, who I love to pieces, I just say, well, at the end of the day. And it works like a charm. So, because he understands, because that's his language, right? That's what he uses. Well, at the end of the day. And so I use, well, at the end of the day, because that's a Chris phrase. So pay attention to the phrases that people use, and and that's a great one to use in the written word too, in an email, in a note, because then they're like, man, they really get me. That's why when you're working with a buyer and you're doing the 2 homes and you ask from a scale from 1 to 10, 10 is the piece, what is to give it a 10? Okay, tell me what are the things you really love about this home? That's why you're asking that. You want to write down exactly their words, because when you're doing, the Ben Franklin, you got to write those words down. It's not, oh, that's a large kitchen. It's the huge, enormous countertop. Whatever words they use, you have to use their words back. You can't make it your words. They're so not effective. Their words have to be used. That's why you have to write them down. So the most important thing with NLP is speaking the same language they speak. And they'll never notice you do it. I mean, unless you do it right away, and then it's weird. So don't do that. That's why you have to take notes, right? Okay. Any questions on that? And so when you're matching and mirroring, remember, so I've done all this, and now I think we might be in rapport. I have to test her, right? So by testing her, I'm going to change my position first. And if she follows, now we're in sync. And I can begin, because now we've matched. If she doesn't follow, we have not matched, and I've got to go back and continue matching and mirroring. Everybody clear on that? So I highly recommend you practice this, because it's so interesting to see when you've actually created that match. So try it with somebody and see, but they can't know what you're doing. And if they're like, why are you following me? You're very bad at it. And go back to just doing one thing. It means you're trying to do too many things. And if you can't carry on a conversation, it means you're doing too many things, right? Because you have to be able to be so comfortable at it. Like I do it so naturally now, I don't even realize I can, but if you have to really think about this, you can't carry on a normal cognizant, conversation. That's a bad thing, right? Conversation still has to be fluid and still has to make sense. So just start with the body first. Then after the body, I would do the tonality, if it was me. After the tonality, I would go into pacing. That's the order I would do it if I was not good at it. Wish I am, but that's how I would try it. Okay. Questions? Okay. Moving on. The key principles and techniques. These are the main techniques of NLP. You have modeling, and that is observing and replicating the behaviors and the thought patterns of successful individuals so that you can achieve similar results. So the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, Steve Covey's, what's that one about the successful people? I forget the name of it.
7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Thank you very much. Thank you. There's a reason that people study people who are successful. It's so you can model their behavior. Again, it's not to copy what they do, although copying is the best, the greatest form of flattery. It's to model their actions and behaviors. Does that make sense? So that means you have to model it within your own modalities, put it in within your own thought patterns. But you're just taking out scientifically what is it behaviorally they've done, and how can I take those actions behaviorally and make those actions work within my model?
Oh God.
Yes. I'm not sure who said, oh God, who did that? Lauren, does that scare you? I stopped her so she doesn't have to say, oh God, again. Okay, then you have anchor.
Angela.
Yes, Angela?
Okay, so it's so funny, but I literally grew up reading so many of these books about this.
Yeah.
It's just I had a parent that just much like you are to your kids, pretty much droned into our brain, be your own person. You can be absolutely anything. You're unstoppable. It's just, but specifically speaking for NLP,
Uh-huh.
what are some of the good classes or books that you have read? I promise you, I believe I've read one that totally focused on it. And for the life of me, I cannot remember it. And I'm just kind of, if you're sharing these, you've probably read those as well. So if you don't mind, kind of shoot us out a list of books. NLP is invaluable
Yeah,
to
it's
success.
wonderful. It is absolutely
It
great.
is probably your best tool in your box. I love
couldn't agree more. I'm so glad. Thank you for saying that. And I will do that. I'll put together a list of books that I've read that I think are very helpful. And they may not all say NLP, but they are all NLP driven for sure. Absolutely. Yes, thank you for bringing that up. Okay, the next one that I absolutely love is anchoring, and that is associating a specific stimulus with a particular emotion. And that creates a trigger intentionally. And that is very powerful. And we're going to look at that. Then there's something called a swish pattern, and that can replace a negative thought pattern with a positive one. So that's like, for example, I don't care what people think. The swish pattern is like creating a mantra. The swish pattern is looking at your behavior when you're doing self-talk and replacing with a new one. It's like, so there's different ways you could use it. I don't know that I've ever used a swish pattern with like a sales technique, but I definitely have used it with a person who is with me to help them become successful for sure. Reframing is changing the context or the perspective of the situation to alter the meaning and impact. This is huge if you're with a buyer or a seller and they're not understanding and getting the impact that you need. Sometimes you do have to reframe for sure. And rapport building obviously is how you're doing it through matching and mirroring, utilizing the techniques that we just were talking about. Okay. Now, anchoring in a listing presentation can be used to build seller confidence. It's great. You can instill a positive emotional state to build confidence, trust, and excitement when they think about working with you. Oh, how do you do that? Anybody ever done this? What did you say? Has anybody ever done this? Anybody ever wonder if I did this when I was with you? Yep, of course I can. Okay, so first you want to establish a positive moment. This is the most important thing. You have to build up the emotion. So this is when we actually use emotion on purpose, okay? Again, this is a science. So we understand the importance and the power of emotion. So we're going to use it to create an anchor, okay? So we asked the seller to recall a moment that they fell in love with their home, to tell us about it, right? We need to get them in an emotional state when they're excited and happy. So tell us about the moment you first fell in love with this home. What made you feel, what was it that made you feel so excited about this home or this area or this community, whatever. You got to get them to a place that they're like, oh my gosh, I was so excited. I was so, whatever. You got to get them there. And when they're at that emotional high, if you will, that is when you have to do something. You could touch their hand. That's always an easy one. Something very simple, like, oh my God, it must have been so exciting, right? Like if I was next to Juliana, she's telling me all about this thing, and then like and I said, that must have been amazing for you. Tell me more, right? How easy is that? Or if it's a guy, right? You could have done something like tap the table. Oh my gosh, right? It could be like that if you didn't want to touch the person, but it has to be significant enough that you can do it again. To me, it's I like the touch of the hand is a good one, but you can do something like hit on the table, but it has to be something that wouldn't be weird if you did it again. Okay. Right? I mean, please don't do something strange. That would be totally weird if you did it again. All right. And then when you're in your marketing, you're going through all the exciting things that Sotheby's does and all of that. You say, this is exactly the kind of exposure your home deserves. And you touch their hand again. Or you go, right? Whatever that anchor was to get them to the moment that they were super excited. So they're recreating that emotion. And now that emotion is tied to Sotheby's and their marketing and you. And that triggers them. So now they're triggered together with the emotion of what you're offering and how they felt. And then you have to go right into it. Are you ready to take the next step, getting your extraordinary home in front of the right audience? Right? Are you ready to get this home in front of the world? Whatever it is, right? Are you ready for this worldwide exposure, right? What do you guys think? It's a good one. It's very strong. Okay, here's another one. Oh, here's why it works. Because you've increased their emotional state, and then they have these neutral triggers. So it's called classical conditioning. And it's a form of, anyone know Pavlov's experiments? This is Pavlov's experience. So here's Pavlov. What they did is they had dogs, and they wanted to see if they could get the dog to salivate. So they had the little bell, and they didn't feed the dog yet, but they didn't salivate. So after they could create the bell, and they would salivate. So they had to work with this conditioning to get them to associate the bell, not just the food, with salivation. So that is what classical conditioning is. It's creating not just the food, because the dog's going to salivate, right? But they had to change the actual reaction of salivation, not from the food, which is a natural one for the dog. They had to create it to the bell. And that's what Pavlov's experiment was, which is a form of NLP. And that's what you're doing. We're not going to make the people salivate, but we're trying to, maybe a little bit for our marketing, but we're trying to get them excited, right? So we're trying to create the same emotional high. It's just like I like to create an emotional anchor, and I'm just going to share this. To help get rid of my stress, I have my own emotional anchor. I love the beach. So when I was at the beach, at a complete emotional reaction of complete utter release of all tension, just loved it. Like that moment where like the waves are crashing, the wind is blowing, you just feel amazing. I grabbed my little thumb finger and I held it. That is my trigger. So whenever I'm in a moment of like everything is stress and I'm like, I do this and I de-stress. So I purposefully created an anchor for myself, which you could do to yourself too, but you have to do it when you're at that emotional state to recreate that emotional state. So you could do it on somebody else, or you could do it to yourself. So that's a good one. So if you ever see me do that, you know that you're annoying me. No, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. And then the last one, and I know we're out of time, but I'll do one more if you have time. So here's a little thing, classical conditioning to help sellers let go. Sometimes, they don't want to let go because maybe they had a situation where, sometimes you think that these people just don't ever want to sell. You ever have that? So you can, if you identify the emotional barrier that they have, is it anxiety? Do they have, sometimes it's just the anticipation or excitement, or maybe they just don't want to move for whatever reason. You have to figure out what that stimulus is. What is causing that behavior? When you find out what that is, you have to then discuss future lifestyle with them. So you realize you get them excited about whatever it is the future. When you get them excited about that future, that's when you create the anchor. So whenever they get at that moment of, oh my God, they're getting anxious again, you hit the trigger, touch with the hand, whatever it is, to get them back to the emotional excitement of moving forward. That's a good trigger for people who are blocked, like they don't want to move. We need to do it for Sylvie. This is a good trigger. The other one is just to get the listing. Again, oh, I already went through that one. All right, so those are some things. I know we're way over, so I don't want to keep going, but I hope you guys have enjoyed some of the light, a little deeper, but light NLP. And neuro-linguistic programming is a incredible science. I love it. But next week, we're going to go into closing techniques. Because I really think it's important. We can use some of these things, but if you can't close a sale, what good is being there, right? So we're going to use some of these techniques and some more to really help us close the sale. So next week is closing techniques. So see you there. And I will be sending out more information on our virtual open house. So have a great rest of your week, guys. Bye.